to The Creative's Way, a podcast where we take you on a journey inside the minds of our favorite creatives. I'm DeeDee, and this is my husband.
I'm Bruce, and we have an amazing guest today. He is a brother, he is a friend, and I'm very much a fan of my brother. I call him the king of internet radio, Mr. Gerard Bonner.
You guys are awesome. Thank you, guys.
Man,
Good
thanks
to be here.
for being here. Absolutely.
Come.
Yeah, man.
Sure.
So Gerard is way back in time. There was a thing that came around called the internet, and years later, there was radio, but then internet radio came into play, and Gerard came on the scene and created Bonafide Radio. And for us who are creatives in music, whatever genre, if you were living under a rock at that point, you do not know who this guy is, but most of us pretty much do. He's been doing so many things even since then, and we're gonna go into the journey of everything that comes with internet radio and wrestling and all of that kind of stuff. It's great to have you on the show, man.
It's good to be here. I'm excited for you guys.
Yeah.
Y'all are some of my favorite people. Y'all know that already.
It's gonna be fun, man.
Good to be here.
So, take us to the beginning and the origin of Gerard Bonner.
Well, does that mean when mom and dad met?
Well, because the birds and the bees, where are you from?
The year was 1975. No.
It's the darkest every night. Mom and dad were getting together.
Yeah, no.
So just the beginning, like where are you from?
Sure.
And we'll go into how you got started and just your career, and all of that. Of course, going through being a musician as well, which a lot of people don't know that.
I was shook.
This man is incredible.
Like, I'm sorry.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Keyboardist, organist. Oh my gosh. But yeah.
So let's see. I'm from a little town called Monticello, New York, which nobody's ever really heard of. But when I went to college, I started announcing it as Monticello, New York, 95 miles northwest of New York City.
Got it.
Because that was kind of the reference point for everything. Exactly. Yeah. When we say Catskills, they're like Poughkeepsie. About 45 minutes away.
Okay.
Yes. So we're in the Catskill Mountains. But we're so small that we're actually called the village of Monticello.
Okay.
It's not a city. It's a village.
Okay.
It is literally when you drive in the village of Monticello.
Wow.
Okay. So yeah, it's dope yet small.
Yeah.
So the irony of that is, I grew up with very musical parents. My dad had a massive music collection back with 8 tracks and records.
Yes.
He was the king, right? My mom was a musician.
Okay.
My mom was a singer as well. And then my dad's mom was also a piano player. So I kind of got that honestly and didn't even realize it, But yeah, music was a thing in our house for a long, long time. But we did not have a real record store or place to be able, an outlet to be able to purchase music or anything like that, specifically inspirational music, gospel, or anything like that. So I would end up being years behind on things, which is the great irony of that. So
I was about to say years behind, but then eventually started internet radio.
So that literally pioneered forward. So,
yeah. So it's kind of wild how that happened.
Okay.
So yeah, it was there, but I loved music, loved all kinds of music. And of course, growing up in a strict Christian household, you had to be kind of careful how you wove that music in, So I did that carefully.
Yes.
But yeah, it started there. Okay. And so most people probably don't know, that's where I started playing.
Okay.
So it started, I was 14.
Okay.
Actually, technically, I first started learning when I was 6. But then the guy who was teaching piano, he left.
Okay.
So I was just kind of stuck.
Okay.
Didn't know anything. So then I picked it up again at 14, self-taught. and away we went.
So how did you get to Virginia?
Okay.
Because that's where, for sure, that I know you and I know a lot of people, from there. Yeah, like I literally was like, okay, never thought New York at all. Yeah.
From Richmond, Virginia.
Yeah. From New York.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So college is what took me to Virginia. I lived
Okay.
in Richmond.
Okay.
Went to Virginia Union.
Okay.
And the funny part of that was I knew I needed to get out of New York, specifically Monticello.
Okay.
Because there just was not much of a future there in terms of being able to do some of the things that I wanted to do and even see the world. Like field trips for us was going to New York City.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, depending on what you were wanting to go for,
Sure.
why not go to New York City instead of coming all the way
Yeah.
down?
So
Or like NYU or like, you know what I mean?
so
Stuff like
New York
that.
City was kind of considered like the big city, but the devil city.
Oh,
We were apostolic.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so yeah.
Okay, so it's
I probably
coming
should have said it at the
together.
top.
It's
Yeah, we were
coming together.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So because of that, everything was super strict. So we went to New York City for field trips.
Okay.
We were going to the museum.
Right.
We'd go to the circus at Madison Square
Yeah.
Garden. And so obviously Madison Square Garden to me was heaven.
Right.
Because I'm a wrestling fan.
Of course.
So that was the Mecca. So like
Yes.
we're going for,
Yeah.
for the circus and I'm looking for, where's Hulk Hogan?
Right.
Like it's just,
Yeah.
it's like that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But in terms of being able to live there or do things there, it was like, no way. So Virginia became a destination for me because I had some cousins who actually left Monticello and moved to Virginia in Richmond because of some jobs and things like that. And I was like, nah, this is cool. And plus our church was connected in, with some conventions and that type of stuff. And it was very regional then.
Yes.
And so Virginia was one of the destination spots for some of the cool spaces that we were connected to. Fun story, I guess I can tell this publicly. So one of my childhood friends that I met during that era is a guy you guys call Ty Tribbett.
Yeah.
So we would, so his space was so cool.
Yeah.
It was like, nah, all the cool kids have to be down in Jersey, in Baltimore, in DC, all those areas. So Virginia was like, yeah, that would be the space to go. So my parents wanted me to go to school in New York, as in New York State. So they wanted me in like Binghamton and Syracuse. And I'm like, that's a no for me. Like, it's a no. But they were like, no, you know what? Nah, we want you to go here because I guess they were depending upon me getting a scholarship because they were like, nah, we're not really saving up money for you to go out state.
Right.
But I wanted to get out. So I primarily applied to schools in Virginia, Virginia Tech, UVA. Virginia Union kind of came as a last resort.
Okay.
And, but they came through. I got accepted to all the spaces, but they came through real big. They came through with the scholarship.
Yeah.
And so
That's where you go.
And that happened like 10 days before.
See?
Funny story. So 10 days before I graduated is when that came through.
Wow.
Which is weird because, I'm a top student in school. Everybody's like, where are you going to school? You're supposed to have exactly. Yep. So I'd gotten accepted to UVA and Virginia Tech, but they were talking just small chump change, and they wanted me to join ROTC, and I'm like, I'm not built that way. Shout out to those who are, but I'm not built that way.
But yeah, it's not for us.
It's not. So that was my first real big test of faith, because I remember the day before I found out about that. I was walking to work, which we never worked on Sundays, but I had to work and I was sad, but I was like, Lord, if you don't want me to go to Virginia, fine, I'll just stay here. But I'm gonna believe that you're gonna do this. And literally the next day, the acceptance letter from Virginia Union came in with the scholarship. And I'm like losing my lunch, like, that kind of thing. Right. And it's like, oh my God. So yeah, it was that. So that's what took me to Virginia.
Okay.
And that ended up being extremely pivotal in terms of what would happen career-wise for me, because it was there where, the internet really started to jump off. Yeah. And I ended up meeting some amazing people in a chat room for a website called Gospel International. And those people that I met, the four of them, and I ended up coming together with a website called gospelflava.com.
Yes.
So that all started.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know nothing. I really honestly don't know anything because I feel like we've sat here before and I have found out things as we're talking. I'm just like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
I definitely remember Gospel Flava back
Yes.
then,
Yes.
but I had no clue that you had anything to do with it.
Yes.
But
yes.
I also didn't know BRC until I came to the show.
Well, there we go.
Okay.
No,
But
that's
a lot
cool.
of, and that's a good fun fact, which is why I wanted to have we call him GB.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to have GB here, was because a lot of people don't know that is that they knew that you were a part or maybe a correspondent, but not necessarily somebody who actually came and was a founder or of that. So you doing that and working with them for years, in that space, how did you get to a point to where you're saying, okay, I'm doing this and these are, write-ups and all this other kind of stuff, but then now I want to shift and kind of go into the internet radio space.
Okay.
Because that was still new.
Sure.
Which is crazy because it was still new, even though it had maybe been like 4 or 5, 6 years, something like that. It was still really new that a lot of people didn't know. So this is before streaming.
Yes.
Actually, before streaming was actually legal.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
So this is before streaming, LimeWire, FrostWire, all of that.
I got that song.
Right. Napster, all of that.
Napster.
But I definitely want to go into that and just kind of, when was the change of saying we're gonna go to internet radio instead of actually just saying, hey, you know what? We want to actually do like radio, like, you know what I mean? How?
So it's just weird how everything just kind of connects in terms of the dots. So Gospel Flava ended up actually being the road to terrestrial radio. So people don't know this part. So I was at the live recording for Donnie McClurkin, shout out Donnie McClurkin, for the Psalms, Hymns, and Spiritual Songs album that he did in Virginia Beach.
Yes.
Incredible record.
Great.
That night, I met a guy named Mike Chandler and a young lady named Carla Isaac. Both of them are amazing people. So Mike Chandler is, he's the owner right now of all the Rejoice networks across the country. And so he had a station in Virginia Beach called Rejoice 100.9. And he had asked me, since he was aware of what I did with Gospel Flava, if I would come on and do kind of like an entertainment news segment every Friday. So I was like, sweet, of course. I always wanted to get into radio, never knew how. So did this. The first day we did it, it was supposed to be a 15-minute segment, and folks started calling in. It turned into 2 hours. And I was like, whoa.
What is this?
Okay, what is this, right? So they enjoyed it. They had me keep coming back. And then a thing opened up where I could end up being on the morning show. So I ended up co-hosting the morning show with Mike for a few years. We actually won a couple of stellars with that station.
Nice.
And then there was a point where he was kind of transitioning a little bit, but he was teaching me how to work the board. He was teaching me how to create promos. I'm learning all of this stuff, not knowing why I'm learning it. And then things would happen where I'd end up parting ways with Rejoice in 2009.
Okay.
And that's where I said, okay, I've got all of this. I've been in radio for 5 years now. I've got all of this knowledge and I'm not done. What do I do with this? So at the time, this is so funny. I actually had a photography website. And the photography website was called getbonnerfide.com. And so I said, I need an outlet for this. Now we were doing some small streaming there at Rejoice, very, very small. We'd have a very small audience. But from there I was like, I could do this that way. And that would be the outlet. And that's how we started in September of 2009.
So you were a photographer as well?
Yes.
A real creative, because we talked about this.
Yeah.
Hands and everything.
Yes.
So you went to college for what?
Math.
Help us. Help me.
So here's the reason why,
This
though.
is really a journey, guys. So, I mean, we are on a journey because what is happening?
Yeah, so I knew coming out of high school that I was really good. I loved math.
Okay.
I loved English. I loved to write. And I
I need
loved
you in
music.
school. Jesus, I needed to be calling you.
I loved all of those things. And my mom was like, you'll love this. My mom was like, well, Gerard, the music industry's fickle.
See?
So get a steady job, go into this whole math space. So I ended up being a math major in college, but I ended up playing for the gospel choir and the university choir, and ended up somehow writing on the newspaper staff and ended up being associate editor. So somehow all of them ended up working together.
The math was just like, I will just help my children
Well,
Right.
with their homework.
It was that, but I tell people all a math degree does is it shows I can critically think. That's what it is, and it's important because you need that everywhere.
Yeah.
No, you literally.
Because people don't be using their brains.
Yeah.
Okay, so you started Bonafide Radio in 2009, September 2009.
Yes.
And when you started it, I wanted, because of the fact that you already had the experience in radio, were you in the least bit nervous of how this was going to be received because you were going to be doing, did you start off doing gospel internet radio or was it all genres?
So yeah, it started off being a bit of everything.
Okay.
And I knew it was going to be different.
Okay.
Because, so to answer your question, yes, I was extremely nervous. Extremely nervous because for one, I didn't intend for it to be a station. The intent was to do a 2-hour show twice a week.
Oh, a podcast.
That's pretty
Basically.
much, right?
Basically.
But the problem was day one, we did this 2-hour show and people were like, we want more. And I was like, I don't have more.
Right.
So now I'm trying to figure out how in the world do I create enough content to do this every day and then to do this long enough where people actually want to tune in. And I knew that since people knew me from Gospel Flava, they knew me from Rejoice, they were going to expect primarily gospel.
Okay.
And I knew the way we listen to music, nobody just listens to one genre.
Right.
On our iPod at the time,
Yeah.
you know, it's on everything. Now it's on our phones, it's on everything. So I wanted to create a safe space where you could listen to music that I call life music.
Yeah.
It's gospel, it's R&B, it's hip hop, it's jazz, it's all of these things that's positive in nature, that you could feel comfortable with everybody listening to. And it also gave a space for new artists. That was super important to me.
Yeah.
And so, was I nervous? Absolutely nervous.
So with the start of Bonafide Radio, where did the chat room spaces come from? Because that's what I heard about so much is that everybody's like, oh, we met in the chat room. And I was like, how are y'all meeting in chat?
And let's be very clear. Probably a lot of us, our network was started from the Bonafide chat room.
Which is crazy.
Because you literally had so many people, so many creatives and executives and labels and all of that were coming in, having these conversations, just listening to music. And there's a lot of artists that we know today, gospel and secular or, mainstream, that we would not have known if it wasn't for Bonafide Radio.
Wow.
So to answer like her question, like what made you say, okay, now we're doing the station pretty much at this point, right? It became kind of in that way, and then the chat room.
So the chat room was always a part of the formula. There was the chat room from day one. It was always there. And the reason for that was it was going to be a great way to connect with people.
Yeah.
To also get immediate feedback on what they liked and what they didn't like.
Yeah.
Right? And I had no idea it was going to create a community, but I'm community oriented.
Yes.
So to me, it was like, let's just get on here and let's do this.
Yeah.
And so it's funny, it didn't become a 24-hour thing until almost a year later.
Okay.
And I actually kind of took the old BET model, which was I had shows that were recorded. So I had enough shows where I could loop them and it would feel like it's a 24-hour situation until I could get the stuff on the back end to really make it a 24-hour situation.
Now, were you doing this, especially in the beginning, did you have a team? Was it just you at one point? And then like from you doing it by yourself, how long did it take for you to be able to start getting the BRC team and stuff like that?
So it started primarily with me.
Okay.
And then it got to a point where I knew, okay, this is getting too big. I can't do this by myself. So the funny part is the team came from the BRC.
Oh, I'm sure.
The team literally came from people who were listening. And that's when I started finding out what people's expertises were. And it was just like, wait, you do that? You do that? Let's do it. And thankfully they had enough of a love for what we do so they were really the unsung heroes for making this thing happen. Yeah. Because, when it came time to doing the parties and things like that, that stuff felt overwhelming for me because I was just like, how are we gonna do this? Yeah. Where are we getting the money from? Yeah. Like, the logistics, how are we gonna get the artist? All of those types of things. But they were amazing because they loved doing events and they each had their role. Yeah. And I was like, go. Yeah. Do it.
So when did you start the parties?
Let's get into that.
My first and only party that I came to was 2014.
Yes.
But I knew, I said after that experience, I said, I'll never probably come back to anything around these events except for this event.
Wow.
Because the ticket was so strong.
Yeah.
Every year.
Everybody was walking through there and I was just like, wait a minute, is that so? I had no clue. So when did you start the parties?
So we started Bonnerfide Radio September 2009 and the first party was January 2010.
Oh,
So
this was quick.
It was very quick and it made me very nervous because I'm just like, we're 4 months in, who's going to come? Right, who's going to come? So one of the things that helped was I think there were still a lot of great relationships that I developed from the Gospel Flava days, written a lot of articles for people, connected with a lot of people. So it wasn't a hard ask for people. Like people were literally like, absolutely. And I'm like, whoa. Right. So that first lineup.
Yeah, so how was the first party?
So the first lineup, we had Jason and Jonathan Nelson. Okay. We had Vashawn Mitchell, did Nobody Greater there first. Lisa Page Brooks did her big song there first. We had, we went old school, we had a radio choir. Shout out to Torrance, who he directed the choir. Yeah. Kyla Jade was in there. Like, it was crazy. And JJ Hairston and Myron were a part of that as well. And so it was nuts. PJ Morton was on that show. Like it was what the intent of that show. Applejacks was on that show. Yeah. San Franklin messed my whole life up on that show. Oh my God, it was crazy. So. But the thing was, I wanted the show to literally be like Bonnerfide Radio come to life. Okay. Because it had primarily been a virtual experience. Yeah. So I wanted everybody to be able to experience literally like a live playlist. And I'll say this, this is going to be dangerous. Okay, we'll be careful on this one. What was different about that show was during Stellars, usually the showcases that were happening, people had to kind of like pay to be on them and register and that type of thing. And I did not do that. I refused to have any artist pay to be on our show. Yeah. Because I felt like if I do that, that's going to damage what I intend for the show to be. Right. So it was about creating amazing experiences. Yeah. And thankfully we did that. Now, this is interesting. That night, so we had the show was a great success, thankfully. And so we're taking some people back to the hotel. I'm getting ready to head back to the hotel and get into a horrible car accident. Like, got T-boned. Literally coming across, got T-boned, the car spun around and then went headfirst into an 18-wheeler. Ooh. And I'm like, okay, we launch and then this, like what?
Yeah.
So, and oddly enough, we were nominated for a Stellar that year, and I'm like, okay, how are we gonna go? And it was a mess. And so I'll say this publicly because I don't think he'll mind me saying this. The first call I got when I got back to the hotel was from Jonathan Nelson, who called me to say, hey, I heard you were in an accident. Are you okay? And he's been my brother like since before then, but it touched me because I was like, I don't expect anybody to know this, but let alone for people to come and check on us. And it was crazy. We ended up, doing all the stuff we had to do for the rest of the weekend, but it was crazy. Yeah. But that led into, and so I thought we were done with shows. Like to me, it was designed to be a launch party. Yeah. Oh. We're launching, we're here, that's great, we're done.
The people said we're coming back.
They said no way.
But the crazy,
it's up.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about that party, that was, jeez, man. That was probably the biggest turnout.
Here's what was
you know what I mean? Of that weekend.
Yeah. Well, here's what scared me about that. A, I wasn't sure if people were coming. Mm-hmm. And B, that weekend was the weekend that Kirk was recording the benefit song for Haiti.
Yeah.
He was recording it that night. So I'm like, man, that's important.
Yeah.
That's not so.
Very much so.
So when I walked in there and there were just people wall to wall,
yeah.
I was like, what is going on?
I felt the same way when I walked into the party. Because I kept saying, no one is going to know who we are. Why am I flying all the way to Nashville for this? And then we walked in and I was just like, not this is the hottest ticket.
Very, very much so. And it was, and no shade to anybody else, but the professionalism that was there, you had the camaraderie because a lot of us, even for that first, but throughout actually all of the parties, you were meeting people that you had been talking to.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, it was Clubhouse before Clubhouse.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's what it was. And so when you get to the point to where, oh man, I've been talking to this person for 4 months.
Yes.
And it wasn't, oh, let me da-da-da. It was, I'm meeting you at the party.
Yes.
Are you here?
Yes.
What's going on? So now, like you're saying, it put things in perspective for BRC to come to life.
Yes.
Because now I'm meeting people that I've been talking to. I'm hanging out now. Oh, well, what are you doing? Now we're going to eat. Now we're doing this. And so all of that, along with the music and, those types of things of seeing our favorite artists, as well as groundbreaking artists, that are there that we kind of knew maybe from the city or maybe, from the radio, that was, it was groundbreaking.
Wow.
The Kreative's Way is sponsored by World Fidelity Life. They realize how important your family is to you and are determined to provide the best living benefits life insurance has to offer. World Fidelity Life. They make life insurance easy.
Kreative's Way.
And that's I think that was the biggest thing for any of us who were artists or musicians or any of that, was just like, we actually got a space to be able to live that out.
Yeah.
And that was the cool part. Not to say that it wasn't cool that, anybody else was doing their things and stuff, but it was more kind of, structured and kind of dealing with this and dealing with that and got to do a run. But when it was time for that BRC party.
Yeah. Wow.
You used to be in the chat rooms too?
What?
Well, how old were you, 10?
I've been in, I have
started it in 2009.
Yeah. Right.
I've been in the industry for a long time. I was playing professionally as well. So, that was the hang.
I just would have been so mad had I come to a party and I'm trying to sit up here like, oh, I've been talking to, my homeboy for 6 months, and then you show up in the 7th grade. What are we doing? Where can you go?
Hey, man. Look, I was hanging.
Funny.
I was hanging.
But that was the thing, right? Like people of all ages were
Yeah.
in there, and so it almost became our family reunion.
Yes.
It felt I did a lot in terms of how we were introducing it. Hiring it a lot after WrestleMania.
Yeah.
In terms of, from the sense of we wanted surprises.
Okay.
Yes.
We wanted, how we rolled it out was very intentional. And then I can't, man, the team was just so incredible.
Yeah.
Tracy and Yanni and Sherry and all these people
Yeah.
were incredible
Yeah.
because they wanted to make sure this was going to be right.
Yeah.
And so that
Shout out
was,
Shayla.
yeah, Shayla, like all those people, right? There were so many people who volunteered, who just wanted to be a part,
Yeah.
who, I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I kind of lost it sometimes when I thought about, because you guys understand this, when you're doing things, you don't always think about their impact
Right.
or
Right.
what's happening, right? You're just trying to get through it
Right.
and get to the next one. And so, I've had some time lately to start thinking like, we did that?
You
And
did.
it was
a huge thing.
amazing.
Yes.
I had so much fun
Wow.
at the party that I came to.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, that was where I met Leo. That was my first time meeting Leo Wilson. Was at
Wow.
he came up to me and was like, "Oh my God, y'all was killing on the show," and I was just like, "Oh my God, thank you." And then I said, "You are so cute, and we should be friends."
Yeah.
And that's exactly.
So that was the other thing. People were meeting
Yeah.
Yes.
who had never met. So Anita Wilson tells this story regularly about how her and Avery Sunshine met at our party.
Oh.
And they're the best of friends
They are
now.
the yeah.
But and that's the thing. We had Avery and Anita on the show. That might have been the year we had B Slade. And when we had Slade, like, that's my guy.
Yeah.
And people were like, we're going to protest. I was like, protest.
Yeah.
We're
Like,
doing this
let's
show.
do it. Yeah.
Like it was, but I mean, we pulled off some surprises.
Yeah.
We had John P. Key crash the party one year.
Cause who better to crash?
And what
bring
was
your
crazy,
queen out.
that's literally what happened. He came in a side door.
See what I'm saying?
And people went nuts.
Oh,
Like,
you can't do anything but go nuts if John P comes up and does a set because every song is going to
it's going to be killer.
a hit.
It's going to be killer.
The last party.
So the last one was the one you were at, 2014. Yeah, because what happened was it moved to Vegas after that.
You're right.
And then in 2015, I got married.
You're
and it was just like, okay, that's a lot. Like Vegas, married, like, nah, we're gonna put a pin on it. So,
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
How did BRC and going into that bring you and your wife, Yanni, together?
So
Because-
it's funny, we met, shout out to Bobby Jones, because we met at BET working backstage at Bobby Jones.
Got it.
And so we met 2 years before Bonafide Radio. I think it was 2 years before Bonafide Radio started. No. Yes? No. 2007, 2008, one of those years.
Yeah.
Okay.
So come 2009, I had told her backstage about the idea.
Okay.
And she was like, absolutely, I'm in. Now, she's not easy to please. Now, let me say it this way. Let me say it this way. This is a better way to say it. She is not easily impressed.
Correct.
Yeah.
Another. There it is.
She is not easily impressed. And so when her eyes lit up at the idea of Bonnerfide Radio, I was like, okay, well, let's go. And so she's been a staunch supporter.
Yeah.
And so she's been involved in just about everything that happened with that. And so, yeah, things just kind of built from there. It's funny, people who know us are like, y'all were dating all that time. Like, no, we weren't.
Yeah, no,
Right.
I definitely did get dating
We weren't.
from y'all the whole time, but I just remember when the picture showed up online that y'all were getting married, or maybe I think it was y'all were about to get married, and I
Yeah.
was just like,
Yeah.
yeah, I was definitely like, this, okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
2015, though, I did not know it was that long ago.
Yeah. Yeah. That's when we got married. 2015. Yeah.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
So, 2015, you guys have a little boy.
Yes.
You said you've been a fan of wrestling this whole time?
Yes.
Now, this is another thing that took me by surprise. I
Okay.
was just like, Gerard about to go do what?
Right.
He's about to be the announcer.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So how? First of all, because I'm sure that that's almost like a dream come true. Because do you ever think that as a child, a fan of WrestleMania, you would ever be like, I'm right here at it, like I can almost touch?
You know, it's one of those things I always wanted to do.
Really?
But never thought, like, how?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Like
So it was that, like, I was the kid who was literally, I had the action figures. I was playing with I had my own federation, and I'm doing all this stuff, but I'm not thinking like, okay, it could turn into that. But yeah, so I have to credit Yanni, because what she did was, for my birthday one year, she got me a Groupon to DDPY, which is Diamond Dallas Page Yoga, which is in Atlanta. Diamond Dallas Page is a former wrestler, 3-time world champion. So like being in Atlanta was like, oh snap, like I have to go to this, right? But I took my time. I was like, I'm scared,
Was yoga?
It was yoga.
Yeah.
Yeah, so February 2019, I walk into this performance center, and I hadn't even met DDP at this point, but I loved what was happening there. Like, this was cool. I'm liking yoga now. Like, this is great. But I also saw they had a sign up, a literal photo of the logo for AEW, which is the other large wrestling company right now. I didn't realize at the time that they were actually shooting all of the promos and things right there where we were working out. And then there were some guys that were working there that had formed their own wrestling organization. So I was trying to figure out, like, I'd love to go, I'd love to do something there. So the 1 month I was going to go, which was in May, Jackson was set to be born. And I'm like, what I can't do?
Nope.
I cannot be at Listen, it's gonna be over. So now that month was, and you'll appreciate this, that was the month where Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega all invaded SHW right before AEW launched. So this was massive. So fast forward to September of 2019, and I was like, you know what? I'm finally free to go to a show. I've been home with the baby for a while. I can go to a show. Went to a show, loved the show. And so their shows are first Friday of every month. So I went back in October with my guy, Courtney. Got to shout out Courtney Beard. That's my guy. So we went, and that night, what happened? I met the commentators that night. And so I was like, okay, this is cool, or what have you. So Courtney and I went to Waffle House after the show, and he said, we're gonna figure out how to get you in this business. And I'm like, okay, let's figure it out. And so it started with this idea of, I already had a wrestling podcast. So it was like, interview the owner. And so I did that, but we had also done a podcast on the way there and on the way back, just chronicling our experience, right? The owner heard that podcast before we ever interviewed him.
Wow.
And he loved it so much, he made it mandatory listening for everybody in the company.
Oh my God.
So I'm like, okay, I didn't know it. I was like, wow.
Yo,
so
then be on his guy.
Listen. So then we get to the November show, and I went back, and I see they only have one commentator. So during the intermission, now I'm not the guy to be, I'm not the guy to push myself and, promote myself. Like, I hate that.
Hate it.
So for whatever reason, I got like 5 seconds of courage and said, okay, I'm gonna go and talk to the commentator. And I said to him, so where's your partner? He's like, oh no, he's not here. And I said, well, listen, if you ever need somebody to fill in, I'd be more than happy to help. And he was like,
Gerard Bonner said this?
Yes. Right, I know,
Yeah,
right?
what?
I know, like, I never talk like that. So he was like, sure. And I thought it was good convention talk.
Yeah.
You know how oh yeah, sure. And I knew the owner, and so I talked to him as well. He was like, oh yeah, sure. And I was like, okay, cool. Now we get to the December show. I already got my ticket. Had a crazy day that day. So you guys know me, I'm usually always on social media. Wasn't on the socials that day. It's a crazy day. I debated whether or not I was gonna go to the show. And here's what's funny. Yanni was like, I don't think you should go. I was like, no, I bought my ticket. I need to go. Yeah. I get to the show. 30 minutes before the show starts, I'm walking in the door. I walk in the door. I didn't get in the door. I get to the front of the door. The booker meets me and he says, we've been trying to get a hold of you all day. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, we've been trying to get a hold of you all day. I'm like, what's going on? He said, do you want to call the matches tonight? I didn't get a chance to think about it. I literally was like, yes. And then I said, what
did I say? What am I doing?
I couldn't even think, like, what happened at the last show? Like, what's going on? So now he takes me to his car. He's got to go get something. So now I go from literally having a ticket to he walks me in. He's like, no, he's with me. Takes me over to the commentary booth. 15 minutes before the show starts. I'm not dressed for anything. I literally have a hoodie on because I'm coming to be in the front row.
Right.
And so the owner comes up to me and he's like, hey, listen, if you do a good job tonight, the job's yours. So don't suck. No pressure. No pressure at all.
No, not at all.
So I'm like, okay. I'm texting my guys, Courtney and Brandon Clack and John Murray, and I'm like, guys, like this is happening right now. And they're like, kill it, kill it. And I'm like, oh my God. So Brandon Benefield, who is my commentary partner, he's like, okay, well, let's just do this, right? So we get into match 1. I promise to God, it felt like breathing.
Wow.
It felt like breathing.
Yeah.
And I remembered it was just crazy. So after the first match, he looks at me, he's like, oh, I think we got something. So we call the whole night, 3 hours. Show's over, we get to the back, they're doing some post-match interviews, and so then the bosses ask him, how'd he do? He was like, oh, he was amazing. And he said, you want the job? I said, yeah. And there it is.
Wow.
Okay. So this isn't just you coming to sit at a table and saying next matchup is so-and-so, so-and-so.
Mm-hmm.
You are not only introducing, I guess, the wrestlers, but then you also have to talk all the way through like the commentators.
So I'm literally doing all the commentary. Yeah.
And you are the color commentators, right? So there's a difference between. So just kind of, let's get into that just a little bit.
So there's usually it's a 2-man booth.
Yeah.
The play-by-play guy is the one who calls all the moves.
Okay.
Right. And then there's the person that does color.
Okay.
That's the person that's really telling the stories. Right.
Oh,
so
okay, I do.
Yeah. I'm
following.
So for me, it was there we go. So I'm telling the stories, you know, and then it was just kind of like and we never talked about who was going to do what.
Right.
That's what's crazy. We never said, okay, who's going to do this? We just went, and it just fell into place. And literally 2 days later, now they're calling us the voices of SHW. I'm like, I just got here. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Be the voice.
Yeah, I mean, and so things just started snowballing after that. We end up on a streaming platform after that, and it's just off to the races. It's crazy.
So now where you are in life is you are a commentator you're still with the same company?
What's happened...
Because haven't you mentioned AEW online before that you're doing...
So here's what's happened. When I came into 2022, I was still primarily working with Southern Honor, which was where that whole story started. But that led into other things. Yeah. So that led into me being able to do work at the Nightmare Factory. The Nightmare Factory is the school that's owned by Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes is the son of Dusty Rhodes. Yeah. He's right now one of the most popular wrestlers in all of WWE. Okay. So we... Very much so.
McMahon left.
He did, but the company didn't.
The company did.
So who took over for him?
Triple H did.
Shut up.
Yes.
I know them because...
Yes.
Crazy thing is, my girls were really, really, really big wrestling fans when they were little. Trinity actually had a wrestling party for her 12th birthday.
I love that.
With tutus.
I love that.
And I was just like, you really want me to get you a wrestling cake? Her cake was a ring.
Yes.
With the figures. And I'm like,
yes.
what? So I know.
Yes.
I remember the whole thing with Triple H and the wife.
Stephanie, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Stephanie is actually the co-president of the company right now.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And Triple H is killing it right now.
He's really killing it.
So you're doing work with AEW too.
So I'm not doing work with AEW. Okay. I think I'm so close to AEW that people think, because Many of the folks coming out of the Nightmare Factory also do work at AEW as well.
Okay.
So I'm working with the Nightmare Factory. At the top of the year, I was like, God, I want to do more. Because the goal is to get to WWE.
I was just about to ask, is
Yes.
the goal to get to WWE?
That is the goal. That is the goal. And so I feel like we are en route. And that's why I'm really enjoying the journey right now, because a lot of times we get focused on this is the end game and I'm not paying it. No, I'm enjoying every single thing. So I asked God at the top of the year, I want to do more. Like, I don't want to just do one promotion. So by April, literally another promotion called me out of the blue and they were like, we got a show tomorrow. Can you do this? I was like, absolutely. They're called Battle Slam. Battle Slam is neat because it merges pro wrestling and hip hop, which is incredible.
Okay.
And so we've had some amazing people come through there. That has afforded me my first opportunities to actually go live on pay-per-view. So we've been doing, all of our stuff is now on Fight TV, which is crazy.
That's crazy.
Like when I first found out we were going, I cried like a baby because the idea of being able to say live on pay-per-view is something I've always wanted to say. So yeah, that happened. Then another promotion has opened up in Atlanta that we're doing work for. They're called Championship District Wrestling. And then with the Nightmare Factory, they have been doing their student showcases. So basically they have a 12-week camp where these new folks are coming through, and then they kind of have a graduation, which is this massive card. We had been working sound for it, even though we had been doing stuff there. They had other people calling. Well, finally, for the last 2 shows, they had us call the shows, which is really, really cool. So it's been really crazy. Now we won awards for Best Commentator of the Year in Georgia for the last 2 years, which is nuts. So it's crazy how that world is just booming right now. And so I'm really, really grateful. But yeah, to your point, WWE is the goal.
Wow. So do you think that you will do, because now, I mean, I don't want to say that it's a transition over into another market of creativity, but do you think you will, I'm sure music will always be, but what do you see for yourself in the next 5-10 years?
So it's interesting because music is still a part of the equation. I'm actually doing, and for those who don't know, I've been silently working in radio, I guess, for the last 2 years. And I say silently because I wanted people to intentionally know I was doing wrestling. I wanted them to know that because sometimes when you get the stigma of being just the inspirational guy, they only see you one way. In the wrestling community, like, they're good. You know, just bring who you are. They're good. So I really wanted to be able to establish myself in that community. But I've been working actually for the last 2 years or so with some Christian hip hop stations. So right now I'm doing a daily show on a Christian hip hop station called SoFlo Radio. They asked me to do their afternoon drive. So it's literally like a 4-hour show every day, which is crazy working in the world of Christian hip hop. So that's still happening. I think music will always be a part of what I do because it's part of who I am. You know, and so I'm grateful that people respect you know, any opinions that I have to say or advice that I have. So music's always going to be a part of the journey, but definitely the pro wrestling piece is huge for me because it's one of the things that I was told I couldn't do.
What was the reason?
So I was at a church, which will obviously remain nameless, but I was at a church. And
no, we say them on.
No. So what happened was the first year I was. The first year I went to my first WrestleMania, which was in Chicago, I had talked to the pastor because I was going to be out. I was still playing at the church. And so I was like, hey, I'm telling you 3 months in advance, I'm not going to be here on this particular Sunday. 3 whole months. Right. I'm not going to be there. I'm giving us time to find, well, where are you going? On WrestleMania. This is going to be great. He looked at me and he said, you can never tell anybody that you're going to WrestleMania. Going to WrestleMania is akin to taking your family on a vacation to the club. And he also told me that no one would take my ministry seriously.
Pause for me.
Yeah.
How does WrestleMania line up with the club?
I'm not quite sure.
And then family to the club.
Yeah, I don't know how we got there.
I'm so sorry.
So
Service like a mother.
but for me, what that said was that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm still going.
Yeah.
I'm still giving you these 90 days.
And
honey.
went for the next 4 years. But what was big to me was recognizing in that moment that you have to be very, very careful who you give room to speak into your future.
Correct.
Sure.
And that you can, and just because they wear certain positions and titles doesn't mean they share your vision. So they may not be able to see what you see, and that's okay. You have to be able to recognize that. So for me, to be in this space, to be unapologetically who I am, love this business, be well respected in this business, speaks volumes. And it's like, no, I need to fully pursue it. Not as a way to say, boom, you were wrong, but to say, no, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I'm absolutely going for it.
Wow.
Well, now.
I want to say I love stories like this because I tell people all the time, there are so many ways to be fulfilled.
Yes.
And just because you may have put your vision in a box, because I feel like a lot of times, even though we feel like we have vision, we can sometimes put our vision in a box.
Sure.
But
Absolutely.
the fact that you have been able to branch off and do things that no one would, I would never consider wrestling as a part of like your life's journey.
Yeah.
But the fact that you're able to do that and still be fulfilled is just a testament of the fact that the scripture that says God can do exceedingly, abundantly, above all.
Absolutely.
We could ever ask, not just ask, but or think.
That part.
So when I think about people's imaginations,
when
I think about people's imaginations, and you mean to tell me he can do bigger than that?
That part.
Yo, no one should be saying anything about what you can't do because clearly he's proven over and over and over what he can do.
Yeah.
So I think that those stories are so encouraging. They're encouraging for people that feel like they just have to be on one track.
Right.
I'm kind of walking that out myself now.
Yeah.
Kind of like
Which
some
is
of the things that
amazing to
I've been accepting.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I did not see myself doing this.
Yeah.
But I'm about to do it and I'm going to have a good time.
Yes.
So yeah, I love that.
Yeah, there is more to life than whatever track we've initially been on.
Yes.
And I think it's important that we fully explore that. You know, it kind of reminds me, there's a story in the Bible that talks about the man who had 5 talents and 3 and then 1. And the key to that is they were given their talents according to their abilities with the expectation that they would double them, right? And so the idea is the guy with the 5 doubled his, the guy with the 3 doubled his, the guy with the 1 hid his because he was like, nah, look, I don't want to lose this. You're rough, you're tough. Right, you know, and God's like, yo, no, you're wicked, you're lazy. I'm giving it to the one, not with 3, but with 5.
Yeah.
Which always intrigued me because I believe God wants to give it to somebody who's going to maximize it.
Yes.
So it would have been just as bad if the guy with the 5 and the 3 did less than what they could do. Which is to say that all of the talents that we've been given, we've got to use them.
We have to use them for every single thing, even in spaces that, number one, people have told us that we can't show up in.
Absolutely. Spaces
that we felt like we didn't qualify to be in. We have to utilize every single thing. I think it's very encouraging.
Thank you.
I will say that.
And the service that you provided, I think that because in the space of where Bonafide was, it almost kind of did that same thing. It opened the door and it gave people access that they, didn't. And I feel like in that way, if we want to go here where, we go to the ministry of it, that was a ministry that you basically were doing and you gave us. And so in the spaces of that, God honors that and says, okay, you're doing your ministry and what I gave you to do.
Yeah.
But now this is something that you have asked for, and you thought about it and said, you know, it would be cool to be able to get into this commentary space.
Yeah.
And he's just giving it to you.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's the dope thing about that. And I think going in where you were talking about the men with the talents, that's one of my favorite like scriptures. And I was reading in the Message Bible, and in that it was saying that the reason why the Lord basically was mad at the guy with the one talent was because in that space, it was saying that he was playing it safe.
Right.
And so it wasn't that he was doing anything bad.
Right.
He was like, nah, I don't. He was just being cautious and being safe. And in the Message Bible, it was saying like the Lord doesn't want us to do that.
Yeah.
Because like you said, if he's gonna give you more than what you ask or even think,
Sure.
There's nothing safe about that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's the amazing part of the story, you know, and how all of that connects. And so that's really, really dope.
Yeah.
What up, creatives? This week's plug of the week goes to Ty Scott King and her new single, Magnificent Remix, on all digital platforms or wherever you get your music. Download Magnificent Remix by Ty Scott King right now.
I was born to be magnificent, everyday great, far above average, maverick, no magic, his faith and works, his blessings is the perks, tie and dye together, gonna remind you of your worth, see, he delight in we, devil can't test, no flex, no cap, it's more than a boom bap, God prepared me for this, my whole life, queen with a gift so sick, I grew up with it, but didn't realize my pen and some paper'd be the key to my future being so much greater.
Yeah.
Well, now we're getting into one of my favorite parts, which is special questions.
Okay.
Kind of rapid fire, not really, just real dope kind of creative questions.
Sure.
And then we'll pretty much wrap up. Okay. So you are a musician.
Yes.
You are a music guru. So I have to ask this question. What is your favorite lyric?
Oh my Lord. oh gosh, oh man. Oh gosh, you put me on the spot.
That's why we're here.
Lyric of all time, sheesh. Oof.
Or one that
Well,
you kind of.
it would. I mean, you could almost grab anything from Commission for me.
Okay.
Absolutely anything.
Seriously, anything from Commission. The way they talked about ordinary just won't do it. I just like. I mean, anything from Commission. The way they wrote.
Yeah.
It was so different. It was so forward thinking.
Yeah.
And they even like crafted songs for men.
Yeah.
You know, we saw you a year ago.
Yeah.
You know, at the convention.
Yeah.
Like, you were riding high. Not even, like your testimony was strong.
Yeah.
You even stood up and sang a song. Like, see, like I could just, yeah. So it's anything from Commission.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
What's one thing that always makes you feel creative?
One thing that always makes me feel creative. I think sometimes it is when you do something that you haven't done before and it actually turns out the way you envisioned it. You know, one of the things I ended up getting into during the pandemic was video editing. It was kind of something I had to do. And it was just like, okay, when you get it in your head and it actually turns out whoa.
Yeah.
You know, that would happen all the time with playlists for Bonnerfide Radio, because I was always going after creating an emotion for people. So it was like, we need this song to follow this, we need this to follow this.
Yeah.
And when we could create that, and I could see that in the chat room, mission accomplished.
Yeah.
Boom. Yeah, so it's being able to see something that's in your head actually come out and get the reaction you were intending for. Yeah.
So on the flip side of that, do you have creative blocks? And when you do have creative blocks, how do you overcome them?
Oof. Well, yes, I do. I think we all do. For me, I usually have to step away into something else completely unrelated. So if it's a, music creativity block, I'm just going to go straight to wrestling.
Makes sense.
Like I can lose myself in there long enough to hopefully hear or see something that unlocks and triggers something for me, and then I can flip back. And similarly with, if I'm having a block from a creativity space and commentary, I'm going to start paying attention to other things. I'll go to music, I'll see what's happening in current events. To just grab something where I can use that. Okay, boom, and it unlocks the whole thing again. So yeah, it'll be music or wrestling for me that I'll jump into when the other one is kind of frustrating.
Gotcha.
For sure.
Yeah, I have one. If you could have a superpower, what would it be and why?
Oh, this is dangerous. Superpower. No, I don't want that one. I just thought about it. I think I'd want to fly.
Okay.
I'd want to fly because I have so many places I want to be.
Oh, okay.
And I'd want to just get there very quickly. So it'd be cool to do that. Like, I don't want to hear.
Like your body flies.
Yes, my body would get up and fly so I could just be in that space. Because there's so many things that are going on that I just like to.
And you just want to be there.
Yeah.
You don't want to have to go through TSA.
No, God, no. Absolutely
Who wants
not.
to go through
I
TSA?
just want to go outside and lift off.
Just
Girl,
go.
I'll be there in 30 minutes.
Listen, because I mean, like, I don't want to hear extra stuff. No.
You're right.
I don't want to see. No.
You're right.
No, let me just fly and be there.
You're right.
I'll be
You're
all right.
Okay.
What song is your guilty pleasure?
What song?
Yeah.
Oh, I wish you would ask TV show. What song?
Let's
TV show.
Let's do TV show.
TV show. Sister Wives.
Okay.
You guys ever watch that?
Yes.
Let me tell you something.
Oh,
It's ridiculous for me.
it is.
'Cause I
It
just
is.
be sitting there like,
Yo, like, and then the thing. So, like, this season, obviously, Christine is divorced, and watching her freedom is amazing, right?
Yes,
It's
yes.
incredible. But then I think to myself, wait, you were never legally married in
never.
the
You
past?
could have always.
You could have
Could have always did this.
You contributed to this man. having
30 years.
How are you with someone? But you know what? It's so crazy to me because I watch those type of shows
Yeah.
because of the foolishness, but definitely because of, I really am just intrigued
Yes.
by the mindset
Yes.
that would tell me I am going to be another wife added on to the list of wives, but I don't have another husband. I'm trying to understand why it's not okay for me.
There's so many questions I have.
House to house. I'm just like.
And then deciding, no, I don't need to spend that much time over there. And I can.
be over here. When he divorced the first legal wife to marry this newer wife, just so that he can adopt her kids.
Listen.
Foolishness I knew was a fun.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? This is my type of party.
It's-
Where's popcorn and a Pepsi?
Because these are
need that.
things in our community that could never. Listen,
Yo.
I couldn't have two girlfriends.
No.
What?
Not at all. Not at all.
Two what? First, no.
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 That's what I'm saying.
No.
One wife.
One wife.
I
One
know
wife
I am.
is plenty.
You don't really want nobody else around
No.
unless she's gonna be the total opposite.
Because my other thing is like, how are they not fighting each other?
How is
This is
it
true.
like they're like friends.
They're friends.
Well, except for the Christine and that new wife.
Yeah, Christine and Robin, they don't see, but Christine and Janelle, like right now, they're taking trips across the country on
It's
Instagram.
actually really weird.
It is wild. And Robin is mad because it's like, well, you're divorcing all of us. Like, wait, but there were no legalities the whole way there.
Mind. That's how you know that the mind
It
is
is
a big
30
thing.
years.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa.
Super crazy.
So sister wives.
Sister wife.
That's the one.
Last question, and this will probably be hard.
Okay, they all have been hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Your favorite, I will say, top 3 matches ever.
Ever. Okay. Might not be as hard as you think.
Okay.
So one of my top favorites is, this is gonna sound weird, Shane McMahon and Kurt Angle, King of the Ring 2001. That match was bananas.
It was crazy.
And what made it more bananas is Shane is not a trained wrestler.
No.
And this guy's going through windows and taking suplexes on his head.
Yeah.
And it was, that one stands the test of time.
Yes.
Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 25. That was the first of
That was the first, yeah.
First one. I was there for that one.
Okay.
Second row. If you look hard enough, you actually can see me. I've got my camera. It's crazy. But that match was nuts.
Yes.
It was probably... Oh, he is completely nuts. And then I'll probably... Ooh, this is the third one is hard. Top three. Oh, now this is where it's hard. I feel bad only going with WWE. I feel like I should grab another match from somewhere. But for the sake of this, I will go to that Undertaker Mankind Hell in a Cell. Because still now...
I definitely remember Hell in a Cell.
Even now, the idea that he threw Mankind
Correct.
off of the top
Correct.
and nearly killed him.
Definitely.
And then dude came back,
Yes.
climbed the cage and got chokeslammed through the top of it.
Yes.
Literally, it was a tooth is out of his nose.
Yes.
Like it was pure madness.
Yeah.
And I mean, it just. Now there are lots of other matches I really.
Of course. There's some honorable mentions.
Oh my God!
You know what I
yes,
mean?
you know,
in
Steamboat,
that.
Flair,
Yeah.
and Kenny Omega, and Okada,
Yeah.
and like, but this is great.
Oh, all these names.
This is fantastic.
The information.
That's what I'm saying. You be thinking that you don't. I'm
It's
saying
crazy.
you got it. You absolutely
Yeah.
got it.
Absolutely.
No, that's amazing, man. Well, I will say for a lot of us in the industry period, thank you.
Wow.
Thank you for pioneering such a shift in the industry. And I'll just say industry period because it wasn't specifically just music, but it was music, it was media, it was, you brought something fresh and new. And like I said, a lot of us wouldn't be where we are today if it wasn't for your obedience to doing Bonnerfide Radio and Bonnerfide Media as well, and then taking it to another step and say, okay, I can do this, and I did do this, and I know that there, pitfalls and things or whatever the case may be, but you never stop doing it, which is absolutely amazing, and then going into a newer space and having your full self in that as well is super, super dope.
Thank you.
And then, coming to hang with us. Because this is what we do a lot, is what we do on the phone.
Yes.
So
yes.
A lot of these conversations are live now, but these are conversations that we have on the phone. And so I appreciate it for you being here. Thanks for coming and hanging out with us.
And thanks you guys for the invite. And I love what you guys are doing. I love that you guys are so happy and you are sharing that. You both deserved it. I talked to you both. You guys know how I feel about that. So I'm proud of you guys for taking this step. It's necessary. These conversations are fantastic and great things are happening for you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. Well, guys, this was another amazing episode of The Kreative's Way, and we had a blast. You got to keep it locked for next time.
Yes. I don't know who we have next, but we'll have somebody for sure. Just come back.
Come back.
That's all we need you to do.
That's what we need you to do, is literally come back.
You want to get into these people's business? Come back.
Yes.
We love you guys. Keep it locked.
Creative's way.